Now, welcome to our Facebook Live. My internet is really terrible. So just want to apologize right from the start.
For
If I
the entirety of England. That's what you're apologizing for.
apologizing for all of England, I don't know why their internet is so bad. Scotland's okay, right? We know
Yeah.
that, but
Yeah.
something's wrong. Yeah, okay. So I'm sorry. My speed is 4.5. It's like it's 2003. I mean, I don't know what is going on here.
Buffering,
But
buffering.
if I drop out, Farah, you got it, right? No,
Absolutely.
because I have all the
Okay, wait.
questions and everything.
Okay, so uh so if you have questions, you can put them in the chat, and we will see it. And also, someone when you posted this was like, "Who is we here?
Who's the
Like,
we?
who's this?"
Who is we? Even though it said Facebook Live with Jill and Farah. But anyway, that's okay. If you don't know who we are, we thought we'd introduce ourselves. I'm Jill. This
I'm
is
Farrah.
Farah.
My name is
We
spelled weird.
run this group. Farah's name is spelled weird, but it is Farah.
Yeah.
And we run this group and we run Simplify, which is at simplify4u.com. And we have a Facebook page and Instagram page, and we're often posting good stuff, sometimes kind of funny
We
or
yeah.
entertaining. I guess
Well,
people find us entertaining.
we're college consultants. We help students, and
Yeah.
also homeschool consultants. And we've been doing this for several years.
And we help parents too.
I think, yeah, I mean, we work with students, especially like high school students, juniors and seniors. But it just in general, yeah, we do homeschool planning packages, where we help you plan your homeschool year, and then we do the traditional college consultant thing, and we help you all the way through. And then also we do work with families on paperwork, and actually we're going to have a new thing for next season for how we review paperwork and how that's set
Yeah.
up.
And also, we're going to sell our templates
Yeah, we're going to
for
have a
next
whole
year.
thing where you get our templates in an hour of our time. It's going to be a thing. So you can look for
And
that.
my son will have a GPA calculator for everyone to
Yeah, it'll
use
be
on our site.
it's going to be all in there, as one little thing. So, yeah, that's good.
Another thing we do is full comprehensive packages from 8th grade to college, ninth
Mhm.
grade to college, 10th grade to college. We have junior to college, but that's getting pretty
Pretty
full.
full right
We're
now.
taking
Yeah.
last minute seniors.
Yeah, we are taking last minute seniors. So
And
if
we're
you have a
taking last
student
minute
who
seniors.
hasn't applied yet this year and is feeling stuck, then we've got space for those kids now. Yeah.
Reach out to us.
Yeah,
Reach out to us.
absolutely.
Okay. So today we thought, what did I title this? We will discuss our philosophy on launching teens. And we got some great questions underneath the post, but also some people messaged me. So we have a lot of questions. I don't know where you started it on Facebook. Is anyone
No,
posting
yeah, I'll let
questions? I
you know.
can't see
I'll
that.
let you know if anybody
Okay.
asks.
Okay. So first of all, let's start with our philosophy on launching. Want to start with that? And then we'll go to questions.
I mean, I was saying that, like, I was saying, okay.
If you don't want to, Farah, just tell me.
I was saying, I mean, to me, it boils down to that I think both of us believe, I mean, we're open to lots of paths. We don't think like there's just one way to do it, but we really believe in the power of using the 4-year college experience, the sort of traditional 4-year college experience to launch your kid. And that if you can do that, it is absolutely worth it. Because there's a lot of pieces that go into that structure independence and that put kids in touch with the things that help them get jobs and better salaries eventually, and have more successful independent lives, where they get in touch with research and internships, and also this sort of structured thing where they're on a campus and then they're living with other students who are all doing what they're doing near the campus, and then like and then they have to figure out rent and all this, but you're still helping them, like all of those little steps, while they're enrolled in this very structured program with like this checklist of stuff, and a mentor through the college that's a person that they talk to, that they have to go in and meet with. all of those things are beneficial to the vast majority of young people in helping them launch into successful lives as adults.
Sometimes I tell people that my kids are at finishing school, because
Yes.
even though they're 4-year school, because it's basically, I feel in some ways, it's finishing up their, childhood and getting them into adulthood,
Yes.
without me
Yeah.
being involved very much, right?
Yeah.
Which is really good.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to go back a little bit. We are aware there's a lot of different paths to take. We are aware that for some families, different paths have to be taken.
Yeah.
Super aware of that. I was telling you before we started this meeting, I have 3 kids. Obviously, you know that. One of my kids couldn't, the 4-year experience was not right for them for a certain reason. And they had to do community college and then transfer. So, the 4-year experience isn't right for everybody. I do wish they had the 4-year experience. I think they needed it. And transferring credits and everything was a little bit of a nightmare. It took a little longer to get the degree and
It did
everything.
take longer.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
a lot longer, actually, if you're going to be honest.
Because
And
it wasn't a straightforward path. I mean, it often looks straightforward on paper, but then when the student gets in between transferring, it often is not that straightforward, especially if they go from one system to another. But even within the
which
same
is what
system,
they did.
which is what they did. But even within the same, state university system, it just is not, as direct as it should be, even when it looks that way.
Some states are a little better than others.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Absolutely.
Also, I would say that I was way back in the day, because it's been a long time now, but way back in the day, I took the California proficiency exam when I was in a California high school. I went to community college early, and I think I lost out on, now I really did love my experience. I loved a lot about it. And you know that because I talk about it a lot, but I do feel like I missed out on a lot of things. And I feel like I had to choose a major before I was ready to choose a major. And if I had a few more years, I probably would have chose something different. So speaking from firsthand experience, that, I do feel like I lost some things doing that route and starting so early.
One of the things I was saying to you earlier was that I think there's 2 sort of pieces here. One, I understand the fear about money, especially when you look at sticker price for college. It's scary. And it's not something that, unless you're among the Elon Musks of the world, like, that most people can just pay for. But if you look at the average cost of a 4-year college degree in this country, it has not actually risen in quite a while. It's basically flat. And I think that that's something that families need to understand. That the cost isn't actually going up dramatically, that most families, and particularly if you're low income, there's options for you, especially if your sort of estimated contribution is a little bit, when you really can't pay anything, you do have fewer options. And I don't want to say like, oh, it's so easy if you just do ABC. Like, it's not always like it sometimes you really do have limited options. But if you can pay for, say, tuition at a 2nd-tier state school, there, not only can you do that, but there are also a lot of private schools that can match that if your EFC looks around like that much.
Right.
For a lot of students in merit aid and need-based aid, and a combination of that. And so that price point can be found and at a number of different institutions that play, like, so that your student has some choice to look for the right fit. And so I think when you dig down on options, like, don't just immediately say, we can't do that, let's look for another option. Instead, look at how much they can give you. And this is where net price calculators come in. that families you should use it, and use the one specifically at the college, and don't go to
at
the
the
college's
school.
website looking for it. Go to Google and search
Yeah.
for the college plus the words net price calculator, and then fill that out, see what numbers are returning. It might, I
And
mean,
fill out several,
yes,
not just one or
don't
two.
just do one. Now do one at a school that you're interested in, but that don't then look at that and go, oh, we're not going to be able to do any schools like this,
Yeah.
because they all
Yeah.
have different institutional priorities. They all have different ways of doing funding. And so you don't know until you check. And so don't make assumptions. I see so many families make assumptions about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say too is I see a lot of families are like, I don't want my kid taking out any loans, period, zero loans, no loans at all. Loans are bad. And nowadays there's a cap on how much students can take out.
Yeah.
And usually that means they graduate with like a car loan. It's not that crazy to pay back. And sometimes it's worth it. Sometimes it's worth it. And I think
I
that's a
would
big
say,
message that
I
parents
would
should
say,
really think about.
yeah, I would say a lot of the time it's worth it. I mean, you do want to think
Yeah,
about it. You know, and if a student is not, I mean, you do want to think about it. You want to think about, is the student, you know,
definitely.
motivated and, you know, on a path to a degree? Is the student, you know, doing something where, you know, where they feel called to do it and they're going to finish this degree? Like, you know, I mean, you don't want to necessarily encourage your kid who it, you know, has struggled to finish a single class to take out loans. And it does sound scary, I think, because the student loan debt crisis has just taken on these crazy proportions. Most of the people who have, you know, these enormous debts, I mean, a lot of them, it's from grad school or it's from loans before there were caps. And those situations, they're a little bit different. And again, I don't want to play like it's nothing, because it's serious. Kids are inking their name
It is
on a
something.
pretty big
Yeah.
amount, but it's still, you know, it still can be worth it to do. The Okay, my point too was that it always surprises me that homeschoolers, and I feel like I've said this before at some point in a video. It's, you know, I'm sure I've said this, but you know, you got these homeschoolers who they care about education. Like, you got into this because you care about the quality of education that your kid is getting. And like, you want to give them this incredibly rich, detailed, you know, wealth of knowledge with all this information, and do it the right way, and, you know, do it that will help them in a way that will form them as individuals. And then you go bargain shopping for a $2,000 a year degree that happens online with no human contact. Like, what happened? Like, there's just a gap there.
You know what happened? I think fear. I think
Fear.
fear is one of the main things that happened.
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to pay for this degree? How are we going to set up my kid for the success? You know, and a lot of people think earlier is better.
No.
You know, getting this out of the way is better.
Earlier is not better. I think it's worse. It's not, I don't think it's a good mix for most kids. Even really smart, advanced kids. They're not advanced
No,
in
I
terms
think
of other stuff. The other point with that is that with you know, maturity and so forth, like, if they're academically advanced, then they can still take advantage of things like dual enrollment and AP courses, and,
yeah,
you know, and deep projects and finding mentors. They can still have the kind of experiences that they need. And then you can then look for, you know, that can help them get into college later. It can help them get more merit aid. It can help them be competitive for, like, possibly even some scholarships. I mean, it will help with other things down the line.
yeah,
And they'll have a better idea of what they want to do. They're more likely to finish their degree straight through. It's more likely to be the degree they needed and wanted. Like, if they start it when they're 18 or 19 and not when they're 15, like, it's just so much growth that happens during those years.
yeah, yeah. I would also say too that sometimes a student's very passionate and thinks they know what they want to major in, and they're 100% sure, and you don't have any doubt at all. And it's like they've been loving this since they were 4 years old. They definitely want to do this. They're definitely not going to change. And then suddenly they have their degree at 20, and they don't want to do it at all. They're burned out. They've been working on it since they were younger. And it's just like, what are they going to do now? I mean, you can always get your master's, right? But
Yeah.
it's pushing them a little early when they don't need that pressure yet. I mean, they really don't.
And again, they're going to miss out on experiences, those things that we talked about at the beginning, if they're going really
Yeah.
early. I think it also, like, it's just, you want, I mean, it's just, there's no rush. There's no rush, even for really smart, advanced kids. It's just, there's no reason to rush.
I think one reason, and I'm not, homeschooling's a little different. I wasn't homeschooled. I was in a school, obviously, but I was very bored in school. I was extremely bored, and I was pushing for it. So it was coming from me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think that can happen sometimes. So what do you do in that case? Do you listen to your teen and honor that? Do you know, or do you just do enrollment because that's a nice mix and a compromise? Yeah.
I think you do dual enrollment. And I think you look for, I mean, because sometimes I think what happens too is that sometimes some families, they have their kid do something like Universal Learner, or even something at these other, like there are these new ones that are online that are even cheaper. And, sometimes, and then they
Yeah.
go, oh, that was so easy. It was a joke. My kid is so advanced, which maybe they are, but maybe also it was really easy. And your kid isn't, your kid could have so much richer experiences. And if they're saying, like, well, I'm bored, and then look, this was so easy, it's not necessarily helping them to, like, have a bigger experience. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not necessarily challenging them. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they need something else. And like a really high quality community college experience is going to be better than that. But also, like, if they really need that challenge, maybe you look for dual enrollment through like a 4-year university. That's an option in many
Yeah.
places. Maybe, but also maybe dual enrollment. Like, if dual enrollment is terrible where you are and your only option is online dual enrollment, maybe you look for other possibilities. Maybe online AP courses are going to be more rich and more challenging. You know, maybe it's going to be something else that challenges your kid, or maybe it's another direction entirely with individualized coursework or something. Like, there's other options out there.
Let's move to questions.
Okay,
All
there were a
right.
bunch of questions.
Okay. Yeah, there's a bunch. I've heard it said that students' transcripts are evaluated based on their school contexts. How does this work for homeschoolers who, at least in theory, could take almost anything out there? I know common limitations might be finances or AP test scores. Are homeschoolers just not compared to a local context, or are homeschoolers within an institution's application pile compared either intentionally or subconsciously to each other? How does this work when homeschoolers are so unique? Now, wait a minute, there's a little bit more.
Ooh.
Also, is there a way to ask an institution what their homeschool specific acceptance rate is, or would this be a taboo question? This would be incredibly helpful data.
I don't think anyone keeps tabs on their homeschool acceptance
No,
rate.
I don't think that any school is going to have that.
No. I mean, I've certainly talked to schools about it, and they don't even
No.
issue. I mean, the only reason that sometimes schools have that data is that they're compiling it and they're getting the data from their students. They're not getting it from the college. So
yeah, it's not official. It's not official.
Mm-mm. They are evaluated in their context. And you can define that context to some extent. They are also being evaluated. They know your zip code. And so they have a sense of your level of prosperity and income, and what type of resources you have access to. And so that plays a bit of a role, not a huge one necessarily, but a little bit. And then, they're looking to see what you said the context was. Like, they're genuinely looking at that. Jill, do you think that they're comparing homeschoolers to other homeschoolers?
I think sometimes, yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I definitely do. Especially now there's so many homeschoolers applying.
Yeah.
I want to say something real quick about the context you provide. I do think that's important. And I think a lot of
from admissions, we hear it over and over and over, that they like that context, and I think they take it seriously.
And I think those who have been in the group a while or who know me know that when my kids applied, we were low income. I was a single parent on fixed income, and my kids couldn't do tons of things that other students might have had access to. We talked about that. I talked about that. I gave context for that because it's
Yeah.
important, and I think they need to know that there was just limitations.
Yeah.
And so I think if you're lower income and there's limitations, or like if you live real, in the middle of nowhere and there's just not a lot to do, you should put that down. You should definitely put that down and explain it, because it might limit activities or extracurriculars or something. I mean, or if your teen has a lot of family responsibilities, so has a lack of time, throw that in there. That all those things is helpful to admissions to know that about your student.
Or if there was a big family crisis, like if a parent had an ongoing health issue or something, they want to know. Even if you're not, low income, like if there are other limitations, limits to access AP exams or to dual enrollment, like where I live, access to dual enrollment is really limited. And so we could do it locally, but we had to drive to another state and pay out of state tuition rates. And so we had to limit. I mean, it's too expensive, Yeah. And so we had to limit it. We were not low income, but I did put that was a financial constraint for us. We just couldn't afford to, have our kid be full. I mean, because it just thousands of dollars just take a couple classes. Like it just was too much.
Yeah.
So, so you don't, could we have made that work? I mean, we're making college work. But like it just would have been too much, and I think they clearly understood that.
Yeah. But I do think homeschoolers are being compared to other homeschoolers. Maybe not even officially, but just it happens at some schools. There's only one homeschool reader.
Yeah,
these applications.
A lot of schools you're read with the other region, with the people from your region.
Yeah.
But not.
It depends
on
school.
And sometimes they'll call someone like. They'll be like, "Oh, you have more experience reading these homeschool apps. What, how do I interpret this?"
Yeah. Okay, you ready?
Okay. Yeah.
Here's one about early college. So we may have covered this, but let's see. I'll be interested to hear what you have to say about early college, including how it's different than other forms of college classes at a high school age grade, who it makes sense for, and where to find it. I'd also like to hear about researching non-US colleges, which countries have different high school requirements. You know what? Someone just posted about non-US colleges, and I have that post I always share every once in a while with all those links, and I tag someone in it. I might re-share it as a post so everyone can see it. But you need to, if you have a kid who wants to go somewhere outside of the United States, you need to research that early on and preparing for it.
And you should. You may want to look at, and this is not something we encourage in any other situation, but you may want to look at NARS and Clonlara. NARS is the North Atlantic Regional High School something. I mean, it's like there's these and then Clonlara. These are two of the better options for getting an accredited, for really homeschooling and doing it a homeschool way, and then also getting an accredited diploma, which is not necessary in 99%
in any other
of the time, and we would not suggest doing it except if your student wants to go to college in another country, in which case you may want to do this in order to cover your bases.
I was going to say, in some countries, maybe the one I'm in, you just need some test scores, and that's all they're really looking at. So it's going to be different everywhere. Do your research, have your student do your research, keep an eye on it, and really think, is that really something they're going to want in 4 years?
And I would say too, even if so if you didn't think ahead and you get to junior year and your kid's like, actually, I want to go abroad. It doesn't mean there's no options. Canada is an option. Some of the schools in Australia and New Zealand, and then there are some schools like the American University in Prague, for example. I mean, like there are some options. There's a few places.
Which I have to say, I've been there to the American University in Prague.
I loved Anglo-American, isn't that what it's called? University.
Yeah. I loved it. It's very small. I mean, it's definitely a European school, but I really liked it. Great area in Prague, a really great little school. The other thing is too, there's amazing study abroad opportunities at most colleges. So for instance, in my son's first year, he went to Bishkek to study Russian. And this year he's getting ready to go next semester to this, what's it called? I can't remember what it was called, Farah, but
I think he's going to like Jordan and Bhutan, or I don't even know.
I think he starts off in New York and then he goes to Nepal. I don't know, then Jordan
Nepal.
maybe, and then Chile or something. Yeah, so it's a whole semester he's flying all over the world. So I mean, there are options, if you can't officially go out of the country for a college.
Yeah. I would say too, like in terms of the cost, some people assume it's going to be cheaper. Sometimes it is, sometimes
Yeah,
it isn't. Like it, especially, I mean, it's usually cheaper sticker price, even for, international students, but it's not always going to be cheaper actual price that you're paying. So it really depends. So you want to don't assume, dig down, and there won't be the same type of financial aid or discounts or merit.
no.
Like it just won't look the same. So
And
you
often you
take
have
that
to
into
have,
account.
often your student has to have so much money in the bank account to even go to the country. And then
Sometimes, yeah.
oftentimes a lot of these universities don't have dorms. So you have to you have to figure out where they're going to live and the cost of living and everything. So just
Yeah,
take
it
that into
depends. It
account.
depends on where it is. So yeah, it's a really
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
experience in a lot of other countries. And they won't, most places, they also won't have a very exploratory sort of experience. I mean, in the US, some
Yeah.
schools you
It's
start
completely
and it's
different.
one degree and you do it all the way through, but there's a lot of changing of majors, and all of our liberal arts schools, like you can go in undecided, you're expected to. But most schools outside the US, you pick a degree and you just kind of have to stick with it. There's not a lot of options.
Okay. Next question,
Okay.
because we're going to run out
Okay.
of time soon.
Go. And people can add questions too, if you want. Go.
Not sure if everyone will be in our situation and has this question in their mind. We are on visas and homeschooling our multiple kids. Most all of the scholarships are need-based and we are not eligible for that. Okay, hold on. Do we have any merit-based scholarships for the engineering schools? If possible, okay, yeah. So yes, there are a lot of merit-based, and I'm actually working on this with a lot of students right now. There are tons of merit-based scholarships for engineering at certain schools. And you should just do a little search, merit scholarships, engineering. University of Tulsa is a good one, gives a lot of money. Rose-Hulman gives some money. What else?
Alabama.
University of Alabama, Huntsville. Yep, I was just gonna say that.
Yeah. A lot of schools, in fact, I would just say a lot of schools do. And then
Yeah.
also, some schools, international students are eligible for need-based aid. So it just, again, you're just going to have to do your research.
I think this family's not, is what he's saying. They're not need-based.
Oh, I see. They don't have high need.
Yeah.
I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yes, there's a lot of merit scholarships out there, including
Absolutely.
for engineering. You just have to target the right schools.
I think
that's just research.
It's harder to get into engineering at a lot of schools, but schools, even a lot of schools that are harder to get into, if they give merit aid, then they'll give it for any.
Yeah.
They'll give it to everyone. Yeah. Like it's not limited on the majors.
No, not at all. So that's something we do when we work with students and families. We build a list based on whether you're targeting.
Yeah. When we build a list, we're looking at that. Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things, building lists with teens and families. Okay. Who is the we in this discussion? We covered that.
Mm-hmm.
We covered that. If you really want to know who, if you go to our pin post, there's a post of us dancing on a train.
Why are you touting this stuff?
Oh because that's who we are. That's who we are. Go look at our video of us dancing on the empty train.
We're people who dance in trains. That's who we are.
If it's 5 a.m. in the morning and it's empty.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. Don't know. Blah, 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 blah. Can you talk a bit about when to apply to college for a kid who's considering doing something else, such as ballet, acting, a gap year, etc., after high school and before college. Pros and cons of applying during senior year, during a first gap year, waiting until the year before the student would likely actually attend college. I'm so confused on navigating this. I've had, I mean, we've both dealt with this. And I'll just say real quick, my youngest took a gap year, an official gap year, and he applied during his senior year and then told the school he'd like to take a gap year. And the school he went to encouraged it and actually asked when you were applying. So that was very straightforward for him. And then he got his whole gap year, which was really nice. My oldest, I've talked about this many times, took an extra year of high school, so not officially a gap year. So that was a different situation, but you can always take a 5th year of high school if it's needed. With my oldest, he had disabilities, so it was needed with him. But for something like ballet or acting or apprenticeship, Farrar, you should talk about that because your son.
Yeah, my son, he took a gap year. I mean, it was really up in the air. This is what I'd say too. Like, you don't have to decide. Like, I mean, it felt to me even at the time, oh, like we need to decide this. This needs to be decided.
Right.
But honestly, like we decided like a month before graduation, like that he wasn't going to do the 5th year and that he was going to graduate and then he wasn't going to apply. Like, I mean, it was just, we didn't decide until the last minute. And that in large part is because he's a dancer and he was just busy all the time. I mean, so he went into
and a little
indecisive.
Year.
He's a little indecisive. Yeah. But he went into training year. So he took a gap year and then applied during the gap year. Now he's taking technically what's a second gap year because he accepted admission and then deferred. So so he'll have these.
You can have 2 gap years.
Yeah, and that if that's I think especially with dancers, I think that's, we've worked with a lot of dancers and I've looked at a lot of data around this too, because I have a dancer. And because we work with dancers, but they really, most like 20, 30 years ago, it wasn't that uncommon for young people in dance, in ballet particularly, to go right into companies and get jobs at 18. And now it is not common. They typically need not just 1, but 2 years before they get a company position, even at like a second company, like a paid position. And that's, again, that's just data. That's not, so if you've got a kid who's thinking that route, like with dance, I think it does take 2 years. And just for the girls too, though they sometimes are a little bit faster. But I think, you have to, especially if they weren't full-time training before that, they need time. But, for all the arts, I mean, it's just a long-term commitment. If you're going to go that route without going to college, potentially anyway, or put college off for later, it's not going to be part of your plan to go that route. That's doable, but you need to have a road plan and you need to kind of commit to it on some level, I think. Like I have a friend who works with like singers who do this, who don't necessarily go the college route. And, she sees them have success, but it's sort of like you can't kind of be between. You have to kind of make, there are some crucible moments and you have to make a decision. So I do think that students have to. I do like that my son has this path open, but come May 1st, when he has to recommit, if he's going to go, I mean, that's it. He doesn't have another shot. He'll become an alternative student after that, which is fine. I'm not really sure what he's going to do.
That's okay. That's okay. That's all good.
Part of letting adults be adults, even when they're 19.
You just got to let them make these decisions. Yeah. Exactly. I want to say too, you can apply, you might have a team who applies to a bunch of schools and decides, I don't want to go anywhere and I want a gap year, and then takes a gap year and reapplies again. You can do that. You can apply twice.
You can, yeah. When you do that, you do want to be, like, you need to do new essays and like, you don't
you need to do it all over, but
and you may be giving up. If your student does that, they are potentially giving up a slot somewhere, and so they may not get it again because they'll reevaluate them. So like, you can't be like, if they my kid got into Duke and then be like, we turned you down, and then reapply and get back in. Like you might, but you might not. Like, and there's no guarantee.
You might not at Duke, so I have
Well,
to
I mean,
say,
that's my point. Like, but even some other schools, that
yeah,
aren't as
yeah.
selective, like it just you
Okay,
don't know.
let me tell you the last question.
Okay.
Boo, 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 boo. We are in the situation of being a big family, middle income, in an expensive location with little college savings. First of all, there's a lot in that situation, so I feel for you.
Yeah.
We are in the category of what do we do if we can't find a full ride scholarship and aren't willing to take out loans? Well, we talked a little bit about, small loans.
Mhm.
Can you discuss how a family in this boat goes about crafting a college list for a high achiever when cost is the most limiting factor? It
I
seems like wait a minute.
Oh
It
yeah.
seems we will have an odd combo of a couple highly selective meets need schools, several lower ranked schools that offer the shot at a competitive full ride or a live at home community college transfer to state path.
I mean, I would just sort of say, first of all, I mean, I get why this is hard for families.
Yeah.
And but I think also families that do have some money to pay for college, you will find it harder to find a full ride for your student, period. And I just think that's something that those families have to face. If
Yeah.
a meets need school isn't going to give you much money or is only going to give you a little bit, then you're not going to, you're not necessarily going to find, I mean, you can get major discounts, but like if your goal is a full ride where you are paying zero, that is very, very hard when you have money. And it just, that's a tough situation. Now, if you are a middle income family, getting your costs down to like 35,000, that's, that lots of possibilities, and if you have some need, getting it down to 25 or 30, that also, and that's total cost, not just tuition, that's total cost. That's also totally doable. Especially with a student with some good stats. Getting your costs down to below 10,000, particularly to zero, that's really hard. And, unless your kid lives at
Especially,
home at a second tier state school.
right. Especially a lot of times schools will want those kids to take out some loans
Yeah.
when they see they have money. So
Yeah.
sometimes they're going to want that. That's part of the package.
Mm-hmm.
In this situation, I think sometimes looking for schools outside of America is not a bad idea. A lot of families who are in this situation sometimes apply to schools in Germany and
Mm-hmm.
they find better deals there. I mean, but you're not going to get the same experience because they're not like 4-year colleges here.
No,
It's not like that.
I don't think I
I
would.
think
I
out
mean,
of state public schools, if you have higher stats, I don't think it's the worst idea to live at home. Yeah.
no, it's not. I mean, I think it's I mean, I don't think that, I mean, it just is a little tough. You got to know your kid too. I mean, I
Yeah.
just think families, like if you're EFC, like if according to like the calculations, and again, all this is changing with the new FAFSA, the terminology and everything. And
Yeah.
no, we don't know when it will be out yet. And yes, it is mid-November. um, but it's, if your EFC is like 40,000 or something, they're gonna expect you to pay some money, like everywhere is. And also on paper, you have some money. And I get that, like, you've got more kids in the pipeline, you've got other obligations, you may have, complex medical situation or like, other obligations and, family, like, we're also middle-aged. We know you need to refund your retirement. Like, it's like, I get it. Like, um, but they're going to expect you to pay. And I think everyone needs to know that. And I get that that's why families then go bargain shopping. Like, but if on, like, this is why I think sometimes goes back to like what we were talking about at the beginning, that it's like, is it worth it to, to buy a bottom bargain barrel degree, that has terrible completion rates and no paths to sort of a job or anything, and doesn't have a way to launch your kid or much human contact or any mentors or any of that, I would sort of go for the, like, first of all, I'd do community college to a state school over that, though you still are going to end up paying for the state school those other 2 years. Or I'd do a second tier state school where you can get a little bit of a merit scholarship over doing that. Like, I mean, all of those things are going to be better options. A lot of second tier state schools are like amazing, actually.
And living at home and going to a second tier state school is not a bad idea. If that's what has to happen for finances. I mean, we hear from families who do that and they're always pretty happy, I have to say. And they get a degree that's pretty affordable, And
the kid can still, like, then it can become, maybe the student gets a job and pays for their housing, and so you're paying tuition, they're paying for housing, and it can kind of even out a little bit, especially if there's somewhere that's more of a commuter school where lots of students are doing that. Then they're sort of in the path with other kids who are doing that. It's a little bit more possible. It's kind of set up that way. It may honestly be a little easier for them too. Like, if you're at a commuter school and it's less intensive.
I would say it depends. I would say it depends where you live. Like if you're in California where housing is so much, just stay at home and commute to school, Yeah. I mean, you can't always afford all these options.
No, it depends.
I know my internet's been bad, so I want to say thank you for everyone for putting up with me. And I want to throw it out there, which I always throw it out there, that QuestBridge is a wonderful application for low-income, high-achieving students, and we work with students for free who want to apply through QuestBridge. Obviously, it's too late for senior year, but for any upcoming juniors. Two of my kids were QuestBridge scholars, so feel free to reach out to us for that if you are low income and high achieving. Any other last thoughts? Any questions that popped up on your end?
Nope. We were quiet today. We got some likes, but
thank goodness. Thank goodness, because I have bad internet.
There were a lot of questions ahead of time for this one, but like nobody's actually watching. We're just talking to ourselves, Jill.
Okay. Whew. Thank you, because I gotta edit this thing. I gotta edit these slow pauses and everything in the show.
Wait, are you actually you're gonna try to edit it? You're never gonna get there.
I'm the best editor. Again, go look at the dance video. Oh my God. Which had like 40 clips. It was insane. And we got it down. So yeah. Okay, Holly says that that there is an update that they said by that FAFSA is going to be out by December 31st. See, I always thought it was going to be January 1st. Thank you.
So, thanks, Holly.
Thank you, Holly. Thank you. I think I lost a bet, but thank you.
Wait.
I think last time we did Facebook Live. Remember last time we did Facebook Live, I gave lower. I mean, I still gave odds against it, but I was 50-50 and you were like 10-1.
I never thought they were going to get it out on time. I mean, at least the government's not shutting down. If the government had shut down next week, I would have been like, no, it's just never happening. Like the schools are just on their own. It's all chaos.
You can't fill out the CSS profile now though. For anyone
that's open. And some schools are taking it this year that don't usually. It's just a little more, and I've seen it pop up in kids' to-do lists for schools that don't usually have it. And some schools have made like financial aid profile, like portals that are a little different than usual. Like,
keep your eye on that. Mm-hmm. Make sure your team's checking their portals, setting them up and everything.
Yeah, if you've got seniors, they should be doing that.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
No, we're good. We're done. We're out of here.
Okay. Thank you.